the world, like if you think about it, you have the external world and then you have your internal response to it. And that is actually what creates your reality. To me, it's like an equation, right? External world plus internal response equals reality. And there are so many things outside of our control, right? So many things in the external world. For me, the car accident, the injury, I mean, all this stuff, I couldn't control it. I couldn't change it. But I realized my internal response for over a year had been anger, resentment, pushing, non-acceptance. And so my reality was one where I was feeling frustrated and angry and overwhelmed and unsure of my future. And it was just not a good place to be living in my own head.
Welcome to GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, aka the Going North Podcast, where authors from around the world help you realize that success is tangible. You'll leave with at least one new piece of inspiration or information to help you keep going north. Now let's get on with the show. New episode, new review to highlight left behind about the Going North podcast. And this review is titled Motivational 1. And it's a 5-star review. And they wrote, if you want to be motivated in advancing in this life, you must take time with this. And that was from Mitch TMN. Thank you, Mitch TMN, all the way from the Philippines, for leaving that review about the show. Thanks a bunch for doing just that. And if you want to highlight in the future, do that by going to goingnorthpodcast.com, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, and leaving a review about the show and tell us what you liked about the show. So that way we can keep it going at an even higher, dare I say, more advanced level. Now let's get on with today's content. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, is the Going North podcast. And we got another super special, awesome human for you today, my friends. That's right, indeed, another super special, awesome human, courtesy of my good buddy Portia. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Portia Bucker, indeed. That's right. She's got the P and the B, the peanut and the butter, and she loves to keep folks booked. And she's booked us with one heck of a super special, awesome guest. Let me tell you a bit about her, because she is a brain trauma survivor as well as a renowned public speaker and an ASEA Diamond Executive. So we're probably going to learn more about what the heck that is and whether it's double diamond or not. And she also holds a degree in biology. So science swag ahoy. That's right, indeed. So let's give it up for the delightful and magical Danielle Matthews. How you doing today, Danielle?
Hey, I'm good. And I'm so glad that Portia recommended I come on here. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, yeah, that's right, indeed. I'm excited, too. It's like, oh, man, like a pleasant voice, fellow Baltimorean at one point, and we both start with D, so it's a double D conversation.
It's going to be a good one.
That's right, indeed. Good of 2 O's. 2 O's for 2 D's, even though it's 3D living. That's right, indeed. Or 5D if you're extra spiritual. Or 13 dimensions if you're way out there.
One step at a time. One step at a time.
Well, speaking of steps, I probably only covered maybe 2 in wonderful introductions that's not allowed to be 537 days long. So mind filling us in on any cavities I may have missed about you since your first time on the podcast?
Sure. You did a great job. My life's been kind of a wild ride. My degree in biology took me actually on a journey that I never expected, which is how I ended up working with ASEA, which is a biotech company. But the way that I got there was through a traumatic brain injury that I received in a car accident in Baltimore, Dom. I mean, when we got on here and started talking, and you said you're from Baltimore too, man, that city changed my life. I was hit by a drunk driver, and that was 10 years ago. And the trajectory of my life just went 180 degrees from where I thought it was going to go. And I got to say, looking back now over the last decade, it's amazing how you can connect the dots going backwards. And it's been an incredible journey for myself, spiritually, emotionally, physically, but it's prepared me for who I am now. And I've been in a position now for the last, 7 years. I've been able to help others with their health. I've helped thousands of people around the world, Dom, with this health technology that came into my world. And, recently published a book that helped explain the mindsets that got me through everything. I called it mind control. It's all in your head, because that's what I learned through that incredible journey.
So I'm talking about indeed. So I guess the M in Matthew stands for mind control. All right. So I didn't get the full memo, or I just didn't connect the dots until now. All right. That's right indeed. So I guess this really is a portal.
We jumped in, both of us.
That's right indeed. That's right indeed. The game of footsies and one would never expect. That's right indeed. A game of footsies turned into punsies. So my goodness, my goodness. So a biology company, and glad you're still freaking alive after a car accident. It's like, it's amazing. It's like, my goodness, like June, you have a car accident. And it's like, oh, wow. Like 3 months later, I have a car accident. It's like, what the heck? And for Baltimore, a little less, it's like, oh man, I guess there's some emphasis on the crime and not the charm or the crab cakes that night, sadly.
Yeah, apparently. They do make some good crab cakes, though.
Oh yeah, that's right indeed. Especially when the barrel and the bucket is gone, is definitely better that way too. Yep, that's right indeed. So they can all cheer together. It's like we escaped. The cliche is gone. We are free. Oh, Don is a hammer and old Macy. Stick damn it, Don. Don, he got us. It got us. It got us. But my goodness, here that the hammer basically was pounding your mind for a few years after that before you found some of this bioengineered goodness to help you get through, along with some good old Eastern techniques from the pretzel swag known as yoga.
Yeah, it's amazing. The medical community didn't really have much support for brain injury. I was rather shocked. So day of the accident, the paramedics arrived and they actually let me go. They told me I was just in shock. Because I physically looked okay. My car was totaled, airbags had gone off. I had, burns from the airbags, but I looked okay. And I kept saying I felt out of it. And they said, it's just shock, it'll wear off. But in the days and weeks and months that followed, it was very clear that it was something more than shock. And I eventually got in with a neurologist, and he said, yeah, you've had a mild TBI, a mild traumatic brain injury, which I immediately thought, like, what an oxymoron, because there's certainly nothing mild about having your brain rattled. I couldn't concentrate for more than 10 minutes. I was dealing with sensitivities to noise, to light. I had migraines like you wouldn't believe. My head felt like it was just exploding, and it had changed my personality. I became very short, abrupt, like quick with people, and I'm usually very happy, go lucky, and it just was a 180 shift. And I've been an athlete my whole life, Dom, but I thought, with that I can push through anything, right? You always push through challenges, you get back in the game, and I just couldn't. I attempted to go back to work, and it was so clear that I just couldn't handle it. So I ended up losing my job. And, at the age of 23, you don't really have a backup plan. I haven't quite had the time to make that, occur yet. And so I ended up back at home. I moved back to Maryland and was living with my parents. And it was interesting because the doctors were saying to me, oh, it'll just like naturally clear up in a month. And then they said 3, and then they said, well, 6. And then at my 1 year, they told me this was just my new normal. They said, with this type of injury, the body's done the healing it will do, and you just need to adjust your life around these symptoms because there's nothing more that can be done. And I don't know how many people have ever been to a doctor that's given them some sort of sentence like that. And to be told you have something chronic, that there's nothing for it, something within me just flipped. And I said, this can't be my life. I'm 24. I don't want to live if this is going to be it, because I can't do anything. And I physically feel terrible every day. And I was dealing with depression and anxiety. And I mean, it was intense. Panic attacks on a regular basis. And my mom introduced Yoga Nidra to me. So not yoga in the sense that I think everybody else knows it, where you're like, moving and exercising and that kind of thing. I couldn't do that. Yoga Nidra means guided meditation. Is a guided meditation. It means yogic sleep. And my mom, she owned a yoga studio in Maryland, and she had, done a lot of trainings around this. And when she gave it to me the first time, I had a hard time sleeping. My brain just like wouldn't turn off, and hadn't for a long time. And she guided me through this meditation. And I fell asleep, Dom, for the whole night, like deep sleep. And I said to her, you got to record that, because I need to do that more. So I started doing it like throughout the day. It was helping my migraines not like get full blown. And it was just phenomenal. But unbeknownst to me, as you do meditation, it's also like cultivating a sense of peace in you that lasts beyond the time that you're doing it. And so all of a sudden, my internal world was like shifting and I was becoming calmer, happier. And that was just sort of physiologically just happening in me because of the practice. But there was a moment, and I talk about this in my book, where I realized that something had to give, because the world, like if you think about it, you have the external world and then you have your internal response to it. And that is actually what creates your reality. To me, it's like an equation, right? External world plus internal response equals reality. And there are so many things outside of our control, right? So many things in the external world. For me, the car accident, the injury, I mean, all this stuff, I couldn't control it. I couldn't change it. But I realized my internal response for over a year had been anger, resentment, pushing, non-acceptance. And so my reality was one where I was feeling frustrated and angry and overwhelmed and unsure of my future. And it was just not a good place to be living in my own head. So I said to myself, and this is where the term mind control comes in, because I went, you got to get control of this, Danielle. Like, you need to stop playing the victim. You need to empower yourself here with the things you can control, which is how you're going to interact and react to the situation that's in front of you. And I said, you have got to be grateful. You need to figure out how to find joy within this new set of rules that life has put on you. And so that internal shift, took some time. And this is what my book really talks about, is how I was able to observe my mind and realize what was unfolding that was actually for my benefit, and how I could use that to then shift myself into a much higher vibrational state, which ultimately, I mean, I kind of stumbled upon the law of attraction and the law of vibration through doing it, which was, once I shifted my vibrational state, my attitude, and was in a space of joy and gratitude, I actually attracted in the answer to my physical challenges. I attracted in this breakthrough biotech technology that changed my world. And it's just, like I said, it's amazing connecting the dots backwards to see how this all came into being. But it really starts with everybody. It starts with in your mind. It starts with controlling your thoughts. It's truly all in your head.
Yeah, that's right indeed. It's all in your head indeed, y'all. That's right indeed. It's all in your head. That's right. That's right indeed. The ghost strawberry with the crown doesn't exist. It's all in your head, y'all. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. And funny enough, I guess that makes you the second guest too, with the wonderful Yoga Nidra meditation. And it's pretty interesting too, how it's a guided meditation that helps you to really get some of that calm back into your life as well. That's freaking awesome too. So it sounds like some generational yoga swag is happening with your mama owning the wonderful yoga studio, and of course you helping folks to find their calm, and if not thousands of them, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been wonderful I mean, my mom's, like, it's so interesting, because she had that studio. She was teaching trainers, and, she was doing other things. She had a Yoga Nidra student that was an acupuncturist. This is the woman that changed my life. And so it's so funny how it all is intertwined. But she called my mom and she said, I heard your daughter had an accident. This is like a year into my accident, okay, and my injury. And she said, I heard your daughter had an accident, and I wanted to let you know I've come across something in my practice that truly is a breakthrough. And she said, it is doing things that in all of my years, I've never been able to do with my needles. And she said, it's basically going in and stimulating repair in each of my clients where they need it. She said, it goes in and it just allows for more communication at the cellular level. So the detection of where there's damage, the turning back on of things that have been switched off over time because of our environment and toxins and age. And she said, so she was watching people with digestive issues, like the clock going back 30 years, their digestion issues going away, hormonal issues, like balance coming back with people's hormones. She was watching people with breathing issues, having that resolved. Like, she couldn't believe it. And she said, I have every reason to think it would pass the blood-brain barrier. And she said, I think it could help Danielle. So of course, my mom intuitively just like trusts her student and her friend. And I, the biologist, am like, show me the science. right? I was like a wall when this stuff came home because I'm like, it sounded way too good to be true. I'm like, if something's this good, like, why don't we all know about it? And it looked like it was just saline. So ASEA, that it's ASEA is the name of the company that makes this stuff. And it's called redox signaling molecules. And I was saying to my mom, I'm like, Mom, we didn't learn about redox in school. Like, I don't think this is a thing. and I was like, your friend's involved in a scam. Like, she's a nice lady, but like somebody fooled her. And my mom was like, well, Danielle, I'm going to drink it. It was a liquid. So it looked like you took a shot of it, right? It's like this clear liquid. You drink it in the morning and then you drink another little shot at night. And I'm like, all right, Mom, well, I guess it can't hurt you, So 6 weeks into doing this, my mom had bone on bone in her hands, so much so that like she could not make a full fist. It was that painful and the range of motion was just not there. 6 weeks into drinking this stuff, she had full range of motion. And you could literally see like the knuckles were less inflamed, like they didn't look as painful as they had been. And she was saying that her discomfort was like gone. I'm like, how in the world did that happen? Like in my head, I'm thinking like, it's gotta be a placebo. She like talked herself out of it. But then my dad started using it, and my dad, he's a big athlete. He competed in college football, and he's worked out every day of my life. And he started using it, and his knee, which had been injured, it had ended his career 30 years ago, started to feel better within 10 days. He wasn't having to wear his brace. And he was like, look, I'm not sore after my workouts. I'm repairing faster. Like, he was blown away. So he said, my mom, where's the research, right? Just like I had. And, so he dives into the research, and he comes back to me and he says, look, this stuff is too new. It's a brand new science. He said there's in the late 90s was the first that they even had like equipment sophisticated enough to see these molecules because they're so tiny. And he said, this is the missing link. This is like revolutionizing how people can access, their health. And they asked me to just give it 6 months. And I'll tell you what, 3 months into using it, my world started to change, Dom. The pounding that had been relentless for 2 years in my head stopped for the first time. And I started to be able to concentrate again. I had energy again. And it was phenomenal. I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, I was cured immediately. Like there was things that took another year or two to fully repair, but it was like, I had been told that's permanent. Like after a year, they said, it's your new normal, right? And nothing you can do. And I'm here to say there is certainly something that can be done. And, I'm living proof that you can repair from something like this. And I 100% give credit to these little redox molecules. Like they allowed my system to find all the damage and repair. And so, I never thought I'd be applying my biology degree to work with, a biotechnology that I would then educate the masses about. Right? Like who would have ever thought? That was not the direction I thought my life would go in. But because of my injury, I just thought, I'm in a position where I feel responsible to let other people know that are injured or that have been told their issue is, chronically with them, like I had been told. Like there's hope, and I think we got to spread hope in this world, and we got to let people know. People don't know what they don't know, right? You're just in this unaware space. And once you can get out there and just, to me, it's all about education. Like, I don't care what someone does with the information I share, but I'm like, look, know about it. I had one woman, she learned about it. And then she got a call in the middle of the night. Her daughter had been in a really bad accident, had been thrown from this bike, and she had lost the skin on her face down to her chest. And she said, Danielle, literally God whispered in my ear, ASEA. And as soon as I woke up, that's all I heard. And we got her daughter the ASEA, and I mean, she didn't even have to have like plastic surgery. Like we were able to get that skin repaired in a way that like you can't tell. It's just, I've watched some wild things happen. You never know when someone's going to need something like this, but it's powerful.
That's what I'm talking about. Indeed, powerful indeed. So did your mom have a Jesse from Breaking Bad moment when you finally tried it for yourself? Yeah, size.
I have to constantly tell her, like, yes, you were right. I was completely wrong. And so now, like, anything she brings me now, I'm like, okay, I'm listening. Like, I've got an open mind now because I was so very wrong about this one.
That's right indeed. That's right indeed.
Parents,
Folks,
they know something.
heck yeah. I think it was a wonderful John Maxwell quote. It's like our parents sound even smarter as we age.
Don't they? I'm like, oh, sage advice. Good job, guys. Where were you when I was a teenager?
Yeah, hormones blocked our hearing.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It's like the flat earthers. It's like, they've been lying this whole time. The earth is not a pancake or flat. It's actually a bagel because we need the cream cheese of this wonderful product to be spread around the globe. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. And if I'm not mistaken, there's an MLM component to this, right? Because, what was it, like a Diamond Executive for ASEA as well?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So like when I started to share it, I didn't realize, like I had no idea. To me, network marketing, MLM is like well, for me, it was like a dirty word. I was like, isn't that like a sleazy like pyramid thing? What is that? My mom again, right? She's like, Danielle, what are you talking about? And I said, I don't know. Like it was so funny, but you know when somebody calls you out on like this assumption you have, and you're like, I don't even know what that's rooted in. So I started to like think through it, and I'm like, actually, I have no concept for what this actually is. And she goes, Danielle, I think you would be really excited to know that all it means is that the company does no traditional advertising. Like they depend upon people to refer this because it requires some education. They said you can't sell it in the store. So a representative has to educate people and let people know about it. And she said, so like, you're kind of doing it already. Because I was telling people, like, hey, this could help you and help me or whatever. Like I was just naturally doing this. And yeah, she said, look, if you partner with them, like you'll actually get like a referral, for doing that. They'll give you like a referral fee. And I was like, oh, in my head, I'm thinking like affiliate marketing, right? Like the stuff that I'm like used to these days. And she said, yeah, it's like that, except you also could bring in other affiliates and you get paid on what they do. And I was like, what? And in my head, I also kept thinking like, man, that means like the ripple effect, like I could reach thousands of people with this, if I found other people that would educate people. And, I'm a biologist. I don't know the first thing about anything with business or anything else. And I had been in bed for 2 years, so I'm like, how do you even start a business like that? And I was moving to Florida and I didn't know anybody except the person I was moving down there to be with. And I got out into the community, Dom, and I set this fire in me, like this complete passion that was just driving everything that I was doing, because I just felt people have to know. Like I wouldn't have gone through what I went through. I did for a reason, and it was to put me in a position to be able to help other people that are looking and searching. And so like people were like laughing at me, like the same I laughed at my mom, like this lady's trying to sell us salt water. Like, who is she? And because I'm just going out into the community, right? I'm like going to groups and whatever. And finally, somebody took me serious. They were desperate enough. This is what happened. Literally, the woman was desperate enough. Her husband had had a stroke and 2 brain injuries in a year. And she said, you really think this stuff could help? And I said, well, help me, and it can't hurt. And she said, all right, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it with him because he won't take it if I don't also. And they said, we'll give it 90 days. I kid you not, Dom, at the end of those 90 days, this gentleman who hadn't been able to like string a sentence together was speaking again. He was going to the gym. He was like, he had turned into the man that he was prior to all of this. And to this day, they get teary saying thank you to me, for doing it. And she had like stiff armed me the way I stiff armed my mom. Danielle, I've been brought everything. I don't need to hear the next best thing. And that opened up something in the community, because it was like a smaller community. So people knew one another, and that the ripple started. And it was amazing for me in business to learn, like the persistence is the key. It takes time. Like you don't reap and sow in the same season. And I had to learn to plant seeds, to connect with people, to get to know people, for them to be able to trust me that, I'm not some crazy woman selling salt water, that like this legitimately changed my life. That's why I have a passion for it. And that has rippled out to countries around the globe, across the state of Florida, right? Obviously there's a big cohort here, but it has rippled out across the globe, and it's been phenomenal. Like on a daily basis, I get text messages that sometimes make me cry, or they give me goosebumps like you wouldn't believe. Just this morning, I got one about a horse. This woman's had this horse for, years, and he was starting to not be able to see. So at night, it would just lean up against the fence. It wouldn't go out to pasture because it couldn't see. It didn't know where it was stepping. She's been putting the liquid in the horse's eyes and spraying it in the mouth. So it would kind of take some in. And she said that last night it looked up and walked out into the pasture. And I'm like, God, it's so exciting because this is anything living, right? Talks with these redox molecules. And so I've gotten to watch incredible things with people's pets, with their, loved ones. And it also works with plants. I don't know that anyone has like a real emotional attachment to their plants, but it is wonderful to see like flowers stay brighter and more vibrant longer. The MLM side of things is just like, I stumbled into that. And I'll tell you what, it has been so like, I look at that industry as like, have you ever read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki's book?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay. In it, he talks about how everyone should just do a network marketing company simply for the personal development that comes along with it. And, that was like one of the first books I read as I kind of started my entrepreneurial journey, because I don't know what the heck I was doing. And I was like the poor dad, right? I had been in the book like, oh, get an education. That's what you need to do. Keep going to school. I was going to get a PhD, right? That was the route before the accident. And so to like step out and have a business, it's like, what? But in network marketing, you have coaches and trainers and people around you that are like incentivized to help you learn. And I have like, you need a telescope to look back at the human being that I was, 7 years ago before I started this. And the spiritual growth, the emotional growth, like, I coach teams of people that are twice my age, and they're looking to me to lead them. And it's just amazing. The becoming process that has occurred that I never anticipated. Like I just had the passion to help people with their health, and everything else followed. And it's been like such a rewarding journey.
Woohoo! That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Danielle's got on her lab code. That's right indeed. Saving the humans, the horses, and the plants, baby. You love to see it. That's right indeed. Danielle can save your horse. Yep. That's right. That's right indeed. The horse will be able to see again. Plants will be radiant. That's right indeed. They will get that green back in their lives. Indeed, you'll love to see it. And that's kind of funny, old rich dad, poor dad thing you brought up, because it's funny because if I'm not mistaken, you were a teacher in the past life before the accident, right?
Yeah. I know. Isn't it like crazy? I like literally, it's what's wild. I'm going to admit this on air, right? I read, at the beginning of the book, and he's like, guess which one was the rich dad and which one was the poor dad. I was like, well, obviously the rich dad is the one that has the PhD. Like that's how ingrained I was. And I'm like, wait, what? Like he literally just turned my world upside down. And I went, okay, I got a lot to learn, or actually a lot to unlearn. Because I did a Teach for America. So when I graduated college, I wanted to take a break before going on to get a PhD. And I applied to the Corps and I got in to teach sixth grade math. So I was teaching out in Denver, Colorado, snowboarding on the weekends. Like I was living a good life. And it was summer break that this car accident happened and just put me on a different track for sure. And enlighten me in the ways of entrepreneurship and, developing myself and gosh, getting to lead the most amazing people as well to do the same. Like what a blessing. It's humbling.
Woohoo! That's what I'm talking about indeed. That's what I'm talking about indeed. It's funny saying living a good life because I'm assuming the life is better now.
I know, it's way better. way better in ways like you wouldn't have even, the one thing, what's really interesting is one of the biggest things that like traumatized me after my accident was that I couldn't earn. Like I literally couldn't work because I couldn't concentrate for more than 10 minutes. Like I just would get so overwhelmed and my processing speed was so slow. And at 23, I'm like, well, how am I going to live life? Because I can't earn money. I'm like, that was part of the huge anxiety that I had. And so when I got healthy again, there was just something churning in my mind, which is probably why a book like Rich Dad, Poor Dad made its way into my hands, because I was like, I have got to figure out a way to make passive income where if something happens to my health again, the income won't stop flowing. And I just, for the life of me, I was like, I have no idea how to do that. Like my whole career prior to and education, right? I had been told, go to school, get good grades, get a good job, get paid decently for that. Like that's the plan. And the plan doesn't work if you don't have your health. So I was like, all right, never again. Right. And so it's been fascinating. Like obviously the network marketing industry is what it's known for, but I think it gets like, I think people, they really oversell it sometimes with like, oh, make money quick and this and that. Like, that's not the truth. Like the truth is it takes time to build up, to build a sustainable business. Like I looked at it as a 5 years to get to a point where I'd be like confident in it. And then 10 years, it can really be bringing in like a solid 6 figures, ongoing residually. And I thought, well, time's going to pass anyway, right? I'll be in my mid-30s by the time we get to that. That sounds great. And I'm so glad that I made that decision because, here I am, fast forward 7 years, and it's come to life. Like it's real, but it takes discipline. And, through this, I've also met the most amazing entrepreneurs like that do other types of work. And I've learned different ways to invest, different other things to do. Right. And so it's just like the growth has been amazing. Like when you have clarity on what you want, you can create anything. And that's really how I end the book, Mind Control. It's talking about the ways in which you need to observe your thinking and realize that life is unfolding for you. And it's not, a penalty to you, but it's actually all manifesting in a way to help you realize the power that's sitting within. And once you realize the power within, you can use it to create your world, and you're going to draw in everything that you need, and it's going to show up in crazy ways. It might be this podcast that you're listening to right now. It might be the mention of the book. You read that book and your life changes like mine did. Like you just never know. And, that's why I did the book, because I just thought, I learned so much on my journey. And I think as a good mentor and coach, I need to collapse it into something that's very easy to read and digestible for someone else to then be able to take it and collapse their timeline, right? That's what a good coach or a mentor does, to just collapse timelines so that you can propel and move faster. And that was my intent. Like, look, learn my lessons without going through the brain injury and all of the craziness and just realize through my example, right, the power that's sitting within you and how life on a daily basis, literally every interaction, every person, is triggering things in you for you to know and learn. Like the trigger's the teacher. There's something within you that's getting triggered that's not helpful. Like you need to get rid of that. And when you get rid of that, it's usually something from your past, like that has just been lingering, maybe a lens of insecurity, not feeling worthy, like abandonment issues, whatever it is, and that gets triggered by how someone treats you or, how you interpret a situation, right? When you can release those things, that's how you raise your vibration. That is how you start to move into a space where you just become a magnet to attract whatever it is that you want, because you're not being held down by, the yogis call them samskaras, like this stuff from your past that is, that's there, these seeds like that are just sitting in you that aren't serving you. And it's so beautiful when you can realize like, I don't need to react in this moment. I need to step back and go, okay, why am I responding like this? Like whatever this is, I need to release, because it's something within me. And then guys, life is a beautiful journey when you do that. And when you can just be in a space with an open heart and not have this stuff from your past weighing you down, like it's amazing the creative power that can flow through you. And that's all it takes. I mean, it's, maybe I made it sound easy. It's not easy to do the work, but, it's simple. It's simple, but not easy.
Oh, yeah, you can say that again, because it's true. It's like, hey, write the book is simple, but it ain't easy. It's right.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's right, indeed. With all the Benedict, all the eggs. Exactly, indeed. So my goodness, you decided to put pen to paper and put this book out there for free. So what was probably the most challenging thing about putting the book together?
I have been wanting to write a book for a long, long time. And it's like, I kept thinking to myself, well, there's no ending yet. And then a friend of mine said, Danielle, but you can always write another. Like, why don't you share the lessons up to this point? in life. And I was like, oh, it was like permission to start. So it was so interesting how like my head was just so in the way of like, oh, how would I ever finish it? Right. But I hadn't even started it yet. So and then once I got going, everything flows in. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. Like you can't steer a parked car. You got to get in the car and start moving, and then everything unfolds. Like the directions get super clear. Even if it's dark outside, the headlights at least show you, a few feet ahead of you, you know what steps to take, and you can trust yourself to react and respond along the way. And that's what it's been with the book. It's just been, okay, one step at a time, and then the right people came in to help me with various aspects. Yeah, so it's been good.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Good with 7 O's is good.
I like how you say that.
Well, you have me under my control. What can you expect, right?
That's right.
That's right indeed. That's right indeed. So my goodness, Lo just said there about permission to start. It's like, hey, like it's a word of inspiration. It's 3 words that folks need. It's like, hey, listening to this episode today is permission to start your book, start your journey forward, permission to basically close off your mind from the negativity and open it up a bit to a new wonderful option that it's like, hey, might as well try everything else since everything else is broken. And then you may too end up like Danielle and be like, hey, sweet. The schools couldn't teach me everything, dang gummit. In fact, that's where the lessons weren't supposed to be taught. Let me get to the real lessons.
Exactly, man. Life has served me some real lessons. That is for sure.
That's right indeed. That's right indeed. So my goodness, so besides Rich Dad, Poor Dad giving you a paradigm shift and a car accident giving you a paradigm shift, is there any other big lesson you had to unlearn to help you get to new levels of success?
I had to learn to trust myself. I think that was the biggest thing. Is I think a lot of time, at least for myself, I won't talk about everybody else, but for me, I was looking to the external world for answers, validation, permission. It was so interesting to kind of watch myself. And at, at some point, I just said, no, Danielle, like that's your life. You get to choose. Because my car accident taught me this, Dom, like tomorrow's not guaranteed. And I don't say that to make people like fearful or anything like that. It should inspire you to live today to the fullest in the way that you want to, not in the way that someone else has this picture of you doing. Like this is your life. And until, you break this, whatever bond there is between you and the external world of expectation or societal or family expectations, whatever it is, you got to realize, no, put a boundary up, because this is your life that you're living, to have a very, you have a unique gift to bring in this life, and your spirit asks for a very unique journey. And so trust it. And for me, it was learning to trust myself and trust my intuition, quiet my mind so that my heart had the space to speak. And it's a very different way for me to be, very different than what I'm used to. And I just, the phrase that I have just grown to love is get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because I've realized every time I push myself out of the comfort zone, my mind, all the chatter and all the fear that pops in, like I use that now as an indicator. I'm like, oh, I need to move in that direction. If that's making me scared, why? Like there's something for me to learn over there. And that's something that I hope everybody could just take to heart. Like if you just learn to find the comfort in being uncomfortable, you will grow into a person that you will also need a telescope to look back at, who you are today.
There you go. That's a wonderful metaphor. A little picture in your mind. That's right indeed, y'all. So indeed, get yourself a traveling sleep number pillow and we'll go out into a wonderful land, a valley where there's no comfort. That's right indeed. And then get comfortable being uncomfortable. And then one day you'll need a telescope to look back at your old self. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. You went from Pluto all the way to Uranus, or maybe Jupiter. I think Jupiter's bigger. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right indeed. That's stratospheric success indeed. So what are you excited about over these next few months coming up with the new year? We got 2023 coming up indeed. The millennium finally drunk 2 years ago, and now it's going to be 2023. It's like, oh shoot, 23 years in 2020. It's scary.
I love the start of the new year. I think it just like the energy for new beginnings is there. I think because we're all connected and like the collective consciousness is there. Like people are reflecting, they're looking forward, they're excited. And I think I just love this time of year. I love the connection that happens now through the holidays and just the reflection. I for me, it's like New Year's happens 2 times a year. It's now and then June 23rd, which was the day of my car accident. Every single year, it's like just reflection on, look, are you moving in the direction you want to move? Are you doing what you came here to do? Are you living with purpose? And it's like every 6 months I have that reality check, right? Because of a new year starting, or it's been 10 years since the accident. Next year will be 11. And it's always a moment that causes me to pause and reflect. And so, it's beautiful time. I think so often we're so caught up in life that we forget to look back and like applaud ourselves on what we've accomplished. You think about the beginning of this year, there was still so much uncertainty in the air coming out of what we were coming out of. And, there's been so much just growth through everyone, I think, as a society, as, people individually, and just to look back and go, wow, some beautiful things have opened up, and take that and go, okay, great. Now let me get clarity on what I want to create next year. Because if you don't have a clear intention, nothing's going to change. You have to have that clarity. And I think now is the time to get quiet and think about what is it that I want to create over this next year, and, just get excited to bring it in.
Oh, yeah, that's right indeed. That's right. Bring it in, y'all. That's right indeed. With both arms and legs, grab it by the jugular, bring it in. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. And charge forward for success. You love to say it. Love to say it indeed. So 23, 23. You love to see it. 623. All the 23s. Yes, indeed. So since you've been on a few interviews promoting the work that you're doing to help out the masses and the molasses, is there a question that you wish you be asked more often when you're on the guest side of the game on these podcasts?
No, I love the conversation just flowing where it goes. And, where your curiosity is, that's where I love to talk. I think we've covered everything that I usually enjoy talking about.
Ah, sweet. So the icing is a success. All right, good. That's what I'm talking about. That's right, indeed. A conversation's cake. It needs icing. It's got it covered. That's right, indeed. That's right. Well, food's gonna pop up eventually because it transitions to the food question of, if your wonderful book Mind Control, if it were a food, what would it be and why?
Oh, what a fabulous question. The thing that popped into my head is an onion, because there's just layers to it. Like every chapter in there is another layer for you to like identify within yourself and kind of pull back to see. So I don't know if that's the most delicious kind of food to think about, but it functions in that way.
Yeah, well, hey, if you want to keep toxic people away from you, just breathe on them heavy after some onions. It'll be fine. It'll be good. Right indeed. You love layers. That's right indeed, especially when the weather's chilly. That's right indeed, when it's chilly indeed. So we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive. And that is, if you wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but you're still in 2023 with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
Open as many businesses as you can. Because they are playgrounds for abundance to flow in, playgrounds for you to have an impact on humanity in a bigger way. And just don't be scared, because you'll figure out each step as you need to.
Woohoo! There you go. Businesses play. You love to see it. You don't need to wait for Hamilton or Shakespeare. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Start your own business. Make it your own playground. Play your parts. Get other folks to join you to play their parts too. That's right indeed. If they're cool, that is. That's right. They got to be cooler than a cucumber minimum. If they're cooler than two cucumbers, then it's going to be a good time. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. So I know Danielle's land is a bit of a playground because folks need to play in it and cop some of the stuff that you got online and keep up with your journey. So for those who need to do just that, what's the best way for folks to do so?
Yeah, Instagram, I'd say, is the best way. You can You can find me at Danielle Matthews. Turns out there's other Danielle Matthews out there. So I had to have an underscore at the beginning and an underscore at the end of my name. But you can find me on there. I'm always sharing, different mindset techniques. I'm sharing in my link. You can, get access to the book, some Yoga Nidras. You can learn more about the biotechnology I work with. It's all right there. And you can connect in with my other social media as well.
Whoo! Well, you heard that right, folks. Put the yoga pants on your legs and your head and follow Danielle and Dave. We'll put a link to her wonderful site in the show notes. That way you'll find the correct Danielle, because it can be a pain, especially research purposes, looking up a person by name. And it's like, wait, this doesn't sound like this person. It's like, hey, it's not this person. So we're going to put a link to that in the show notes. That way you'll get the correct Danielle. So that way you can be delighted, especially when she decides to go full book indeed, where it's hardcover and audiobook, so that way they can have Danielle in their brain in more ways than one. Indeed, that's right. Indeed. So any parting words before we close up shop?
No, I just say, guys, if anything resonated today, reach out. I'd love to hear it. And anything I can do to help you in your world with whatever next steps you're looking to take, I'd love to share and love to help. So please do reach out, connect with me, and let's collectively make 2023 the best year yet.
If you're hearing this part of the episode, that means you're one cool individual. Thanks a bunch for tuning in, and if you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to share it with at least one other person in your network. Bonus points for 3. And be sure to check out the backlog too while you're at it, because there are hundreds of wonderful episodes to choose from as well.